Блин. Там еще вертолет. Как я такое не люблю. Ну ладно. На базе появилась проблема. Дети сбежали. Надо их спасти.
It's obvious they've lost their trust in adults. I was getting reports of them ignoring the staff, or getting insolent, and even violent. And a few days later, several of the kids did a disappearing act. They snuck into choppers and shipping containers and got off base. Why? Your guess is as good as mine. These kids were born in a war zone, and forced to grow up as war fighters. If they're left alone, war is how they'll die. But I thought we showed them there are other reasons to live. I never liked having children on Mother Base. But the thought of them going back to the battlefield and picking up their old lifestyle is something I can't stomach. It makes me think of Chico, 9 years ago. We have to get those kids back. Hell, they know too much about our operation. I never expected even the kids to betray us.
Даже дети.
Boss, you need to find those kids who escaped. Fighting's still the only way of life they know. If we don't bring them back, they'll just end up getting killed.
Самое забавное, что таких миссий две, и они находятся в разных уголках карты. Вот это вот самое бесячее. Поэтому нужно попробовать максимально по стелсу это сделать, чтобы я смог телепортироваться через доставку грузов в другую точку. Вот такие дела. Надо пробовать послушать дальше, что там есть. Пока тут хожу, брожу.
During World War II, the U.S. military used the languages of different tribes, including the Navajo, as codes, right? I know the term code talker was used to mean people sent to the battlefield to speak in those codes. Were you one of them?
Our mother tongue was indeed used for war. But I did not go. I was already over the conscription age. However, I was made to help craft the codes that were spoken. So in a wider sense, you could call me a code talker for that. Navajo is a complex language, and virtually no one outside the U.S. speaks it. They must have thought it was the perfect language to use as a code.
Yeah, in the end, the Japanese never cracked it. The cipher is king in information warfare.
Of course, they didn't simply speak in Navajo. They created substitutions for words according to a code book, and then translated those into our language. Young Diné was sent to the front lines of the Pacific Theater as code talkers. To fight is an honor for the Diné. They were the pride of our people. But I cannot say this history brings me joy. Words are alive. When they are spoken, life is breathed into them. They become a part of the listener. Our words were transformed into lifeless ciphers and used for war. This, after the Black Ana spent generations suppressing the language.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I guess we shouldn't be calling you code talker, huh?
No, I do not mind. The reason Skullface called me code talker was because I also am responsible for coding language into the vocal cord parasites. I am the same as those young warriors, used for a cipher's sake. I must never forget that. The name, Code Talker, is a lesson carved into my being.
Whole lot of trouble they put us through.
You to weaponize
Making me worry like that.
You also said he wasn't the reason.
And he wasn't. I was seduced by the parasites. That is a fact.
How? You mean from your curiosity as a scientist?
That I cannot deny. But there is more to it. The story goes back to the 19th century, to my earliest memory. One day, a man from the government visited our Hogan, our home. I cried. as he yanked me from my mother's arms and took me away to an Indian boarding school. From that day forward, I became George. This was the name my teacher gave me. I was forced to give up my Diné name, forbidden from speaking anything but English. If we dared utter a word of filthy Navajo, the teacher made us eat a bar of soap.
Yeah, that was the U.S. government's education policy for Native Americans.
To erase our words was like erasing our people. Their education was tantamount to ethnic cleansing. Over time, the overt persecution of our language stopped. But to this day, it continues to be eaten away by the lingua franca, that is English. Many of the Diné outside the reservations can speak nothing else. And it isn't just our language. Across the world, minority languages are being destroyed by dominant languages. Many are on the verge of extinction.
Да, слушаем.
Enter the vocal cord parasites.
Yes, I began thinking that minority languages needed some sort of deterrent against dominant languages. In order that their peoples and cultures would survive. It was then that I came across literature at the Foundation claiming that man acquired language thanks to a type of parasite, one that distinguishes between languages as a precursor to reproduction. If I could just resurrect it, make it more pathogenic, I would have my deterrent against English. But I failed to hide that aim from Skullface. He noticed. Yes, I wanted to retaliate against the English language, though never did I intend to actually use it as he planned. You know how the story ends. I was forced to study how to make the parasites compatible with all the world's languages. All but English.
However, he in fact secretly isolated an English strain.
I will not be held prisoner by the man's phantom. The English strain must not be allowed to exist either.
Так, ну, чуваков от этих мелких я теперь могу эвакуировать спокойно. Прокачался я.
You have arrived at destination. Side ops list updated.
Okay, subject is in.
Extraction arrived at mother base.
Организатор вдохновительного кассета.
Please select a delivery
Но
point.
мне нужно вот сюда.
According to the intel team, the escaped kids should be around here. Locate and secure them.
Хорошо. Кассета новая есть зато, желтенькая. Спасение детей.
Snake, you remember the White Mamba?
Ну, конечно.
Of course, he's been going by Eli since we brought him on base. He was the leader of the child soldier unit we took out of that village and into our protection. Well, according to the kids you brought back here, all the escapees were especially close to Eli. There's reason to suspect he's behind all 6 escapes. We've already detained him. I'll be questioning him shortly.
Wait. You'll be?
Ocelot.
You're incapable of taking an impartial stance with those kids. Question them all you want. It'll get you nowhere.
Ocelot, you get too many kicks from your art of interrogation.
It's not a matter of art. It's about quick, minimal strokes of psychological warfare. That's what gets the answers. And it's the best way to keep both questioner and subject safe. The risks only increase the more an interrogation drags on. At that point, it causes as much pain to the inflictor as the inflicted.
Like I said, too many kicks.
What I'm trying to tell you is we need quick results. Otherwise, it'll be too little, too late.
I know that.
And besides, I know the subject. I won't go overboard with a kid.
Forget it. You're not needed. Snake, we'll want to question the other kids too. Be sure to bring them all back.
Интересно, сколько таких миссий тогда будет, если нужно всех, говорят, привести. Блин, тут, судя по всему, проходов-то нет ни хрена. Зачем это место сделано тогда? Непонятно. На что он триггернулся, интересно, псин? Непонятно. Кто-то куда-то побежал. Я чё, зря что ли винтовку прокачивал? Я в побочку себе так и веду, в принципе.
The map has been updated.
Whole lot of trouble they put us through. Making me worry like that.
Устроил массакру полную. Не, ну а побочки чё, какая разница? Здесь рангов нету. Поэтому похеру.
Caution, rain approaching.
Вон здорово.
Analysis complete.
Boss, about the kids. It appears there's a movement among them to organize against us. I can think of only one person who'd be behind that.
Extraction.
Ну, Элай, конечно, кто
Take a
еще.
look into it.
Конечно же, Элай. Кто же еще? Вопрос больше... У меня есть теперь... 3, 4, 5. Еще и в этом теперь. Ну, в принципе-то я не против. Это прикольно. 70% побочек. Тогда
Please select
на
a
вертолет
helicopter requested.
и кассету.
Snake, about the escaped children. Eli confessed. The way he tells it, they wanted to go back to the battlefield. Don't rob them of their freedom, he said. If you bring them all back, there will be consequences. Next to be asking for our surrender.
Consequences? What consequences?
No idea. That's all I have for now.
You're too attached to those kids. Stop protecting Eli.
Listen to yourself.
Let me question him, and we'll get some real answers.
Not necessary. I'll report as and when.
Надо было это, конечно. Ну вот, опять же, перебили кассету сраными этими позывными. Переслушать, может, в этом. В Афгане, когда поеду. Так. Да, ё-моё. Переслушать в Афгане, наверное, надо их будет. Гамбургеры казухирами. Интересно. Проекты.
Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
Departing.
Песик. Вот реально интересно, сколько этих детей еще. Это прям интересно.
Snake, about the escaped children. Eli confessed. The way he tells it, they wanted to go back to the battlefield. Don't rob them of their freedom, he said. If you bring them all back, there will be consequences. Next to be asking for our surrender.
Consequences? What consequences?
No idea. That's all I have for now.
You're too attached to those kids. Stop protecting Eli.
Listen to yourself.
Let me question him, and we'll get some real answers.
Not necessary. I'll report as and when.
В подсказках было написано, что можно прятаться в машине на кнопку А, но ничего не происходит. Ни пока стоишь, ни пока едешь. Странное дерьмо.
Enemy presence detected. The map has been updated.
Сейчас мы этого спасем и послушаем еще кассеты. Ну, там дадут кассеты, конечно, которые вместе с ним идут. Естественно. Надеюсь, псина его учует.
According to the intel team, the escaped kids should be around here.
Ага.
Locate and secure them.
Нихера себе. Медведи. Охренеть. Вы загнали медведя. Это забавно. Это необычно, как минимум. Самое интересное, как мне туда забраться. Если тут какие-то трещины. Вот это, насколько я понимаю, трещины, да? Ага. Лезь. Как он вообще туда забраться сам смог? Здорово. Ладно.
Whole lot of trouble they put us through. Making me worry like that.
Я тоже подумал, что придется как-то его там сбрасывать вниз.
Side op completed.
Ай-яй-яй-яй.
Subject is in.
Ай, карамба.
Extraction arrived at mother base.
Так, признание Элая. Нет, сначала надо этот отметить на карте. Следующую миссию. Так, ага. Все очень плохо.
Marker placed.
Бом.
Marker placed.
4 километра. Ё-моё.
Boss, we found weapons in the children's section of the living quarters. As you know, weapons are strictly off limits. We've got some rule breakers. The weapons we found were handmade.
Approaching.
Blades ground out of knives and forks, a couple of bow guns built out of scrap, and explosives made using detergents. And get this, the explosives were tightly packed with nails. The kids put the blame on, you guessed it, Eli. I guess that's what he meant by consequences.
I questioned him about it. This time he claimed they want to be put out on missions. Send us to the battlefield, he says.
Miller, enough is enough. You've protected him too much already. It's my turn to question him.
Protected?
What Eli's doing is issuing a threat. Comply with my demands or I'll respond with force. But it'll be war at this rate. Forks and soap aren't gonna kill us, but some of them will end up dead. Is that what you want? Now, I hate to say it, but they want to be on the battlefield. It's time you gave up this fantasy.
Eli, he said they'd rise up against us if we bring the last kid back.
There, you see? Ignore his demands. Don't let him return to quarters. That attitude is contagious. We lose control over them for good.
For the time being, we've confiscated those handmade weapons. We're bumping up security and the number of psychiatric counselors. As for Eli,
He needs some very special care.
you mean solitary?
Well, we can't leave him in contact with the other kids. If you won't do it, I will. Boss, keep working on extracting those kids.
Я думаю, ему опять по щам надавать надо.
The map has been updated.
Так, кассеты. Чуть 5 минут.
Skullface's plan is almost complete. At that point, I will no longer be of use to him. I must leave behind this record at least. A record of how the ancient vocal cord parasites became
Блин.
these abominable ethnic cleansing parasites. I believe he has two purposes for the ethnic cleansing parasites. The first, as their name suggests, is ethnic cleansing. This conflict between East and West that envelops the world will not last much longer. Once the Cold War ends and the weight of America and the Soviet Union is lifted away, the ethnic conflicts they kept suppressed will all rise to the surface. It is not difficult to imagine that the radical sides will begin cleansing their adversaries. What if an ethnic cleansing parasite matching the language of the aggressors were to be unleashed? The aggressors would be washed off the earth. At the very least, the idea that retaliation could eradicate your people would prove a powerful deterrent. The second purpose is the Englishization of the world. To cipher the organization, this is probably their main use. Man thinks in words, or rather, words are man's very means of thinking. If you erase a word representing some concept, the concept itself disappears from the world. Nishone means beautiful in Navajo, but the image that comes to mind when we say Nishone differs from the Blagana's beautiful. An azure sky, a rolling landscape, lush greenery, a meaning we place in Nishone has its roots in Dene culture. If we lose the word Nishone, the images of our beautiful homeland would be washed away into oblivion along with it. Just as Orwell indicated years ago, Cipher, being based in America, is pushing Englishization for this very reason. Suppose all 5 billion people on this planet come to read, speak, and think in English. Their wills could also be streamlined under English. Cipher's control would be all the easier. Economic governance would progress in leaps and bounds. The ethnic cleansing parasites would be a great aid in accomplishing this goal. There is no need to destroy every language besides English. All they need to do is weaken other dominant languages competing with it. Russian, Chinese, Arabic. If people know they risk their lives speaking such languages, they will flock to the lingua franca that is English. Cipher need not even focus attention on smaller languages. After all, they are already being eaten away by English. Business, education, film, commodities. English has permeated every area of global society. I can see this when I look at young Dene. Some of them have already lost their grasp of the Navajo language. It is said that over 2,000 languages of the world are facing extinction. This very moment, cultural concepts and forms of expression are disappearing forever. The spread of electronic networks gives greater meaning to Englishization. Networks have no national borders. By basing them on a single language, they can penetrate deeper into and between people. That basic point of unity provides the ideal environment for someone who aims to control people's wills. But how does this differ from building the Tower of Babel?
Охренеть, 7 минут следующее. What the fuck?
To rob man of his words. Such irony. It was the vocal cord parasites that gave words to him in the first place. Ancient man had no language, unable to produce complex sounds due to the structure of the throat. He could communicate only through simple vocalizations and gestures. Then the vocal cord parasites infected his larynx. Man's transition to walking upright did not gift him solely with intelligence, but also with his voice. At the time, the vocal cord parasites never harmed man. They merely took a small measure of nourishment. In fact, you could call it a symbiotic relationship. Some animal species use particular vocalization.
According to the intel team, the escaped kids should be around here. Locate and secure them.
Birds, certain insects, and also the vocal cord parasites. The difference is that the parasites themselves did not produce sounds. Rather, they had their hosts, man, do it for them. Once secure on the human host vocal cords, a male vocal cord parasite caused the host to produce a certain sound pattern, something like a warble of a bird. Meanwhile, females parasitizing other host pharynxes need only wait. Upon hearing the sound pattern of an attractive mate, they would manipulate their hosts into making contact with the person it came from. The female traveled through his host's saliva to the other host's vocal cords, where the male was waiting and the pair copulated. We can only imagine how the female manipulated his host, but it was probably through smell. Smells traveled directly to the limbic system via the olfactory cilia in the nasal cavity. Volatile compounds released by the female would stimulate the limbic system, which controls instincts, making the host feel amorous. This kind of sexual selection naturally led to competition between the male parasites. Males that had their hosts produce sounds perceived by females as more attractive succeeded in copulating and producing offspring. Evolutionary traits caused by sexual selection are curious. The peacock's feathers, the mannequin's dance, the firefly's luminescence pattern. Even with courtship behaviors that are not advantageous to survival, those individuals that produce offspring, and it escalates with each generation. The same was true of the vocal cord parasite. Courtship vocalization rhythms and intonations became more sophisticated. And to produce such sounds, they had to alter his vocal organs. By lowering the position of the larynx and developing resonating chambers.
Ладно.
They enabled more
Перебивают в любом случае. Перебивают. Как мне попасть наверх? Так. Тревога по всем постам. Да зараза какая. Что делать?
Whole lot of trouble they put us through. Making me worry like that.
Так, а как мне сигануть вниз? Так. Так. Так, так как нам 5 километров лететь, то я предлагаю закончить это отвратительно. Раз, раз. Раз, раз. Блин, там проснулся. Ну, чтобы... А, они там уже все просыпаться начали. Так. Усан. Минус усан. Захватил? Нет, не захватил. Блин, просыпаются все. Ну что ж такое-то? Так, попробовать надо уехать на коробке. Ехать на коробке. Не дают. Чел проснулся. Угу. Закрыто, там закрыто. Черт подери. Здорово. Вроде все остальные спят. Так. Есть. Хорошо.
Please select a delivery point.
Забавно, что это вообще без подзагрузок происходит.
According to the intel team, the escaped kids should be around here. Locate and secure them.
А, тут зомби.
Supplies requested.
Ну, зомби это зомби. Ладно.
Supply drop complete.
Так, а там что-нибудь дали, да? Ведь кассеты какие-то должны были.
The kids you brought back to base have laid out the situation. They all escaped to each of their home villages, or were trying to get home, and lost their way. Not that homesickness is gonna explain everything we've seen.
Each of their home villages. They were trying to raise troops for the rebellion.
You really think these kids have an armed uprising in them?
You read the report of the security team member who had a rock thrown at him. There'll be a riot if we don't do something. And Miller, this is because you didn't act fast enough.
Fine. I'll admit you were right this time.
Seal off the kids' quarters from outside contact before it's too late.
All right.
Eli said his rebellion would start when the last kid is brought back, right? You better be ready to meet him head on if it really happens.
Yeah.
You should have left it to me in the first place.
Boss, they're just kids. We have a responsibility to see that those kids make it. It's not about feeling protective or the pros and cons. I hate kids. That's exactly what I heard from the people who raised me. People who abandoned me, more like. That's the spark that kept me going, you know? I wanted to show those adults what I was made of. Wanted to get back at them one day. Before I knew it, I was all grown up. Never saw it coming. All of a sudden, people treated me as an adult. Some adult I turned out to be. But I feel like if my life had been different, if the adults I knew had been different, I could have grown up better. Yeah, that's it, all right. I wanted to use those kids to test that theory. That's all this was. From their point of view, I'm no different from the assholes who gave me a hard time. When this is all blown over, I'll talk it out with them. If that's still possible. Boss, there are still kids out there. Bring them back safe.
Кидсы? Не киды.
Boss, it's me.
Блин.
Eli's revealed what he wants. He wants to speak with you.
The big
With
boss.
Big Boss.
Да.
He just said, bring my father here. Eli's too smart for his own good. No way to tell what he's thinking. All we know for sure is his men are important to him. That means we can use the escaped kids as leverage in any negotiation. Once you've brought the last one back, I'll interrogate him. If the kids do rise up, we'll meet them full force. End of story. I didn't want things to turn out like this. We could have prevented it, but it's too late now. If Eli means to take this all the way, he's gonna force us to do the same. Boss, go get that last kid.
А, ну, класс. Окей, это хорошо. И это хорошо.
Destination.
A whole lot of trouble they put us through. Making me worry like that.
Не полетит.
Caution. Sandstorm approaching.
Блин, еще и Доруда включится сейчас. Sandstorm.
Boss, I have a quick report for you here.
Updated.
We've discovered a radiation leak in the laboratory on the quarantine platform. It's coming from testing equipment we installed the other day. Members of the medical team have been conducting research there, but we'll evacuate them all from the research block to the containment block next to it. Emmerich.
There's no need to worry. No radioactive material is leaked, so the contamination won't spread. We just need to seal off the testing equipment.
I've dispatched the security team to get the researchers out. I'll keep you updated.
Блин, я заблудился в этих катакомбах. Эти не дали. Ну, тогда вертолет.
Please support helicopter requested.
Тогда вертолет. И сразу на базу, я думаю.
This is P-Quad. Arriving shortly at LZ. This is P-Quad.
Почему?
Support helicopter has arrived.
Из-за этого вот? Серьезно? Из-за песчаной бури?
Weather will clear shortly.
Ну чё, он долго она будет еще? Полетели.
Gaining altitude. Departing.
Where is he?
I told you, your father's not here.
They're back.
Yes, they're back. But don't get any bright ideas. Your quarters are under full surveillance. Your weapons privileges have been suspended. No more uprisings for you. Did you really think it would be that easy, Commander? You'll get your boys back. They'll even see the boss, too. But first, I need to know what you sent them to do.
They wanted to leave.
To their homelands.
They wanted to go home. That's all.
So they were just homesick then.
Not quite. Military warlords, PFs, the armies that murdered their families. Cousins, brothers, parents. They all had someone they wanted to kill. I told them, last chance to face the world with no regrets.
Last chance?
You better be ready for your drag back here. Ready to face the world as enemies.
No!
I'm not like you! Goodbye, Father. I don't need you anymore.
Was Ralph really an accident? Or did Eli just rig it to stir up the boys? Either way, he had to have been planning for this all along. Bidding farewell to the world.
Пум-пум-пум-пум-пум.